Hey, what's going on, Red Dog? How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great.
Just let the folks know out there that maybe don't know who I am. This is James Allen, promoter of New World Wrestling Extreme, aka Trooper Gilmore, New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer.
And you are checking out the Three Count Podcast.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And that's why we're here, the Three Count Podcast. I heard a lot about it, so I had to jump on with you.
Welcome everyone to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, with it being, season 6 or our 400th and something episode, I would just hope you say it with me. I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me.
That's right. Red Dogs in the house.
Like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient as you can. That's why it's never about me, it's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring today? You find this man in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York. If it's a state, he's probably been there with his promotion. He is the promoter of NWWE. He's the man who runs all of NWWE, as you saw in the intro beforehand. He is Mr. James.
Mr. James Allen, New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer. What's going on, Red Dog? How's it go on the 3 count, man?
It's great, man. It's great. So we met
Yeah.
in Maine, and I was actually just there just to show up with Brian Bayside, and because of that, you and I have now connected, and we have, met a couple times and chatted up, and just had a great time, just kind of getting to know each other. And I was like, well, yeah, we're gonna come talk about all this stuff on the podcast. So
Oh yeah, and we're on there. We're just we got a full blown schedule for the new year. We just locked in a couple more dates for October and November. So basically right now we're basically loaded out, man. Loaded out and friggin' it's gonna be a busy year, man. It's you never know what else we're gonna put down on the map for 2025. But I mean, we're fully loaded out. We're getting ready for April 19th, Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Never back down, So we're getting things rolling for that, and hopefully we have a good year. We're plugging along, pushing out that material, letting people know on what's going on, where New World Wrestling Extreme is going to be, and stuff like that. But so we'll just keep on plugging it.
yeah, I'm curious though, because like as a promoter, you probably get flooded with tons and tons of messages from tons and tons of different wrestlers and stuff like that. Like, how do you establish who's going to be a good fit for your show?
Well, one thing about me, I mean, I've been around a long time, so I have this. I do a lot of following and stuff, and I watch a lot of folks out there doing their thing and stuff. A big thing is for me, poster advertisement, stuff like that. What pitches, what talents looks good together, and stuff like that. Because being a professional wrestler, you should be able to really work with anybody. So it's my whole thing of building the look of the poster, the look of the matchups, getting people interested and coming to check your event out, checking out the talent and stuff like that. So that's my whole thing is like a lot of times of building matches and stuff. I put things out on paper and I look to see the visual of it on how it's gonna look.
No, I like it because it was funny because like when you and I first met, like I was chilling in the front row in Maine, and I remember hearing my name randomly in the back, just hearing like, "Hey, where's Red Dog?" And I was like, "I think they're looking for me, but I don't know. I don't want to just presume and run back there." And someone
Yeah.
came and got me, and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna work JP O'Reilly," and I was like, "Okay." And I remember
Yeah.
walking to the back, and JP and I, we literally called the match, and then we both got changed, and then we went over it one more time. And as we called the finish, my music hit, and I remember just like walking right at the curtain. And I thought for the first time him and I got to work, we put on a little fire of a match to get everything started.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think you guys did a good job, man. My whole thing is I'm excuse me. I'm one that likes to give opportunity to people. There's promotions out there that don't like to give opportunity to people. You know what I mean? Especially when you're kind of like only like a year or two in the business or whatnot. And at the same time, I like to build my own product, my own deal. Because there's a lot of companies out there that use the same talent, and it's just I'm not into that. I want a whole different look, a whole different vibe, a whole different bang. You know what I mean? Kind of build your own thing. That's why, like a lot of my talent, a lot of them come from Connecticut, a lot of them come from Maine, a lot of them might come from New Jersey or even Pennsylvania, and I use guys down in Florida a lot. I just try to build my own deal, and I've said it, since day one, since 2003 when we opened up the doors for the first time. I've been saying it, since day one. I want my own deal because there's a lot of talent out there, so you could utilize the talent from other states instead of using the same talent in the same state or whatnot, or if it's Mass and Rhode Island or whatever. I like to do my own thing, and that to me is what sells.
yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's funny because like I was just talking with some friends about I moved up here from Maryland, and I've been in the Mass area now for about just it'll be about 2 years in July. So
Yeah,
I've been kind of like peeping, but then like I catch the ears of other promoters. I'm like, hey, if you haven't seen this person down in Maryland or Virginia or in Pennsylvania, you should really like give them a look. Or down in Delaware, like give them a look and talk to them and see if you can bring them up here.
yeah,
I think there's a lot of great talent that I think it's just a great area to be able to share multiple talents. Like I pop down into the DMV and into Pennsylvania all the time, and I'll be like, hey, if you guys don't know these guys up here in Massachusetts
yeah,
or in Connecticut, like you should get those guys and bring them in. Because something that Brother Greatness told me one time was different flavors makes different recipes, and I think that's such a great thing to think about when it comes to making like your
yeah.
own chili.
Well, I mean, that's definitely a good terminology. I like that. You know what I mean? That's definitely the way I feel about it. That's why, like, but sometimes, like, when you're, doing that type of stuff, you got the guys that try to get big money, and then you got the guys that are like, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do whatever. It's independent wrestling. And of course, being a promoter, and I got to look at it being a worker too, because I started in '94. You know, the money's always kind of been the same, but it's actually gotten a little bit better since the early days. Because I mean, like, back in, like, say 96, 97, you travel up to Maine, you do a 2 show banger, you know, because it was like a sold show. You'd end up getting 75 at night, plus your hotel was paid for. So if you go out and do, like, say 2 nights, $75 per night, you know what I mean, $150 2 nights. Your hotel's paid for 2 nights. That's because they were sold shows. So it's tough being a promoter, though. I will say, man, because as much as you put the work out there, posters, commercials, um, and different things like that. And you would actually think it's actually should be easier now, but I don't think, because I think, like, back in the '90s we went around, we were banging telephone poles with posters and, doing flyers, standing on street corners, whatever. It just seemed like the crowds back then were a lot heavier. When you were, wrestling in front of 800 people a weekend, it's a lot. So even 12,000 people up in Ogdensburg, New York, or the annual Eddie Andelman hot dog safari, where the cost of the whole weekend you had over 200,000 people. I'm not saying 200,000 people sitting there watching it, but 200,000 people walking through where you were
Yeah.
wrestling. You know, um, there's a lot of competition out there, but one thing I don't understand in the business, and I always say it, and I'll share everybody's stuff, is there's too many out there that are all about themselves as far as promoter wise.
Hmm.
You got a guy like me that'll go out and share their material, push their product, because it's support indie wrestling. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that everybody's out there like that don't do shit for anybody, but there's a lot more that are like that than aren't, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll still share people's stuff, even if they don't even like share my stuff. You know what I mean? I'll still push because I'm a firm believer of independent professional wrestling.
Oh
So,
no, I agree. I think what's funny because I always use the terminology of rising tides float all ships, and I think
mhm,
that like even if and as a wrestler, even if you're not in a place that you want to be at, right? Because you're afraid that if you share this person's thing, like you're gonna get them over, and you're not gonna get over either, so they're gonna
mhm,
take from you. You have to get rid of that mindset. You have to get in the mindset of
mhm,
like, hey, I know there's limited spots, but hey, I think this product here is gonna help bring something new to something, and I
yeah,
wanna be a part of that, and I think that's an important thing to have, like, mentally, you gotta have that idea because it's as soon as you start thinking about me versus we, then you once you start getting knocked down that ladder, no one's gonna help you. They're just gonna watch you keep going down.
yep, yep, yep. And I don't know. I try to help a lot of younger promotions out there do what I can do. I mean, I'm on the scene out there. I work with Rebel Spirit Pro. I have a couple other promotions that I work for, and I give them good looks and different like that with rentals and all that stuff because, I like to dress up my own stuff to make it look good. And I always want to make other people look good, regardless if I'm, you know, competition or whatever you want to call it. I try to help everybody out, even the younger talent, I like to utilize a lot of younger talent to help them grow and at the same time build my own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even if you wanna be like that springboard for somebody else to get somewhere else, I
Mhm,
understand that. I'm one of those guys that, like, people will ask me, like, who's the talent that you need to be watching out for, who should be watching out for in whatever region. I
mhm,
seem to be the guy that people go to all the time to ask me about how I know about a certain wrestler, or if I know a certain wrestler, and what do I think of
mhm,
them, because I like to think that if you have a good eye for talent and you think that that talent can help, like,
mhm,
show work better, like, you should 100% utilize that aspect, and
mhm,
I've nominated a few names for, like, Kaiju Pro Wrestling. I've done it a couple times for Focus Pro and Supernova, and it
mhm.
seems like they like the guys whenever they come up and
Right.
hang, work the show, so I definitely think, when it comes to bringing in new talent or young talent, like, you gotta kind of, like, you kinda have to know who what you're trying to get into and who you're talking to.
Mhm. Yeah. And like me, I think about the '80s. I'm a characters person. You know what I mean? So like we have the guys like the Juckets. All right, tag team champions, New World Wrestling Extreme. They're farming guys. They're from the Hicks. You know what I mean? We're the ones that designed that gimmick, and they ran with the ball, and now they're running with it. You know what I mean? We're a big gimmick type company.
Yeah.
Like, like for yourself, Red Dog, all right? You got the colors, you got the stuff like that. It's a gimmick. You know what I mean? You explained to me when I asked you about it, why Red Dog. You explained to me why, and now I got the whole logistics of it on why, which I think is cool. You know what I mean? You took your name, you utilized it into something you do. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
we're like I said, we're a big. If I could have a cop gimmick, a firefighter, a doctor, stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. Construction worker. You know, that's family entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love big characters. I just when I
Mm-hmm.
think of people like I love Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio is like a great wrestler, and he's over with everybody. Just bunch of
Mm-hmm.
colors and big. But when I think of big characters, I'm thinking of people like The Rock and Austin, and then also those characters that people really don't talk about much anymore, like IRS Man. Like the Repo Man. Like
Mm-hmm.
guys, those guys were so over too, and those guys were so much
Yeah.
fun to watch. And I look at like currently, right, and I'll share this pretty deadly because those guys that's not who they are outside of wrestling, but who they are in wrestling. That is very much like an
Right.
over the top character that I'm here for.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. It's all about producing, man. There's a lot of people out there don't get into the character scene too much. Too much. You know what I mean? I think it's a good thing. I think it sells.
Yeah,
Even one being like, I'm not a total monster fan of it, but I mean it's entertainment. Like somebody dressing up like a drag queen. You know what I mean? Like adorable Adrian Adonis. You know what I mean? Adrian Street. You know what I mean? That stuff was all fun.
yeah, 100%. I
But yeah, you gotta have characters, man. You gotta have what the hell is the word I'm looking for? You gotta have a little bit of a little
variety.
juice that a little I can't even think of the word I'm looking for right now. Think of it. Just gotta have you gotta have a story behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And to me, it's what sells, and that's what I try. That's what I try to do. So if I can build a character and it's running good, well, guess what? I'm gonna run the ball with it. You know what I mean? Because that's what's selling. Like for instance, the Juckets. I just use them as an example. We built that tag team. We designed it. We named it. We rolled with it. And now they're rolling with it, and they're at where they're at today because it sells. You know what I mean? And the fans eat it up. They have fun with it. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't beat that. Two country boys coming out, dancing around, hoedown in, or whatever you want to call it. It sells. You know,
yeah,
so you know, same thing with John Strange. They call him paper plate. You know what I mean? He comes out. He's got the paper plate on his head. And the person that actually designed that actually created that, was actually the Tokyo Monster Kahagas, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He's actually the one that come up with that.
mm,
And John Strange actually thought it was stupid. What do you want to put a paper plate on my face for? Well, it's over as a back.
I was just thinking that same thing. I was like, it is crazy to think of like what stuff can get over like with
Yeah,
fans. I that's what I love about pro wrestling fans is that it's the littlest things that get over with everybody. I think about Chris Jericho getting the word "it" over
yeah,
with
yeah.
fans.
Oh yeah, and it's over.
It's insane to me. So let me ask, right? Because, like I said, what? So we kind of talked about like what makes like a person stand out to you, like outside of just like sharing material. Like when someone comes to you and like hits you up, because I like to think of the show as like as an opportunity for kids that are like getting breaking into the business. What's the best way
Mhm.
to approach you? Like to talk to you? Would it be to like be in person, show up to the show, send you a DM? Like what's the best?
Well, a lot of people, I always sometimes I'll have people just pop up, introduce themselves, but majority of the time I got workers that'll say, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. I want to stop over. I want to introduce myself. I want to check your product out, this and that." And I'm always like, "Hey, come on, come on up. Introduce yourself. You never know. Always bring your gear, even though you're not on the card. You never know when you're going to be at the right place at the right time." And that's happened, honestly, man. When I was in the game back in the '90s, that happened to me when back in 1996, when I was working for the Boston Bad Boy Tony Rumble, when it was the Century Wrestling Alliance. I brought a couple midgets up with me that I was training with and stuff out of Rhode Island, NEWA, New England Wrestling Alliance. And it was November 1st, 1996. We were at the Revere Field House, Revere, Massachusetts, and it was a big ass show. I went out there. I had my gear with me. I got on this. I got on the show. I ended up getting jumped by the two midgets that were called the Hollywood Kids or whatnot. It was front of like 1,000 people. You know what I mean? I did the job. I was by the name of Jimmy Rich. It was just they didn't throw no gimmick out there because they didn't, just kind of more or less protected it in case it was something that they were going to use down the road.
Right.
So I just was a regular enhancement type, quote unquote, worker that night. And after I did the job, did the thing, they just show up to the next show. I showed up. I brought my gear. I was on the show. I did it again. I just kept on doing it a couple times. And finally, there was a show in Bristol, Rhode Island at Bristol Community College. I was on the show. I started doing my cop gimmick that I was already doing. And it was, at the time, it was called the Stormtrooper. And I ended up working that night in Bristol, Rhode Island, which I'm not too far from there. They ended up putting me over there. And after that, it was, what is a stormtrooper? And I couldn't really explain it because I got the gimmick. I built the gimmick, for somebody, you know what I mean? I got the gimmick from somebody else that didn't want to do it anymore. So I purchased it because it was my basic first type of gimmick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I actually transformed that into Trooper Gilmore, but at first it was going to be under a hood. All right. It was going to be under a hood, just going to be unmasked guy. And then this guy, Dr. Red Schillinger, or whatever the hell his name was, I forget. He says, "Oh, we're going to name him Trooper Gilmore. What about Trooper Gilmore?" And it's Trooper Gilmore. So I took the name and they told me why. It's because I look like Happy Gilmore. You know what I mean? That was the whole thing where Trooper Gilmore came from. And the thing is, the funny part is, I go to even to this day, I go to a drive-through, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever, this that. You look just like Adam Sandler. I'm like, and listen, I've heard that more than a dozen times in my lifetime. So I might be just a bigger version. You know what I mean? But it has to be in some cases, the look somewhere, you know what I mean, where people think that, but I've been told that multiple, but that's where the name actually came from the movie Happy Gilmore.
Nice.
So, um, so that's how I became Trooper Gilmore. And I did that from 96 all the way to, I don't know, probably 2003. And
Hmm.
I've done multiple characters. Also, the crazy chainsaw. I've done a gimmick called Big Paulie Gilmore, where I went back to my Italian roots. You know, my promoter always used to say, Tony Rumble used to always say that your gimmick is going to change a bunch of times during the course of your career. And I never thought of anything, back in the day about that. But it's true. It happened. It happened like 3, 4 times, during the course of my time in the ring. You know what I mean? Well, I actually slowed down ring wise. I think it was 2018. So it's been a couple years. I've been outside the ring, and I enjoy being a promoter more than actually in ring action. Especially, I'm 47 years old now. I started, I started the game when I was like 16, 17 years old. So, it's a long time, 30 years in the game. Uh,
Yeah.
but I leave that for you young folks. Let you guys do your thing.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you this question, and you can just be honest. Judging by how you see me, how old do you think I am?
32.
I'll take that. You guys heard it here first. And I'm turning 40 in September.
Well, how many years you got in the business?
6.
Right.
Going into my 6th year. Yeah. I mean, I had a whole life before, like the wrestling. So I mean, it's to be fair, I was like, just
Mhm.
like I said, it was former Air Force right before I got in, and then just from there, just started getting into the gym, working out, and then found my way into
Doing your thing.
yeah. So I I was gonna say, we were talking about people who we look like, right? I get it a lot. Like here, so I got it a couple times when I was in Maryland. I get it all the time up here, but people always tell me I look like Donnie Wahlberg. Like
You do.
all the time. I get told I could
If
look.
you like it, listen, they always say there's a twin out there of somebody. You know what I mean? It's true. There's a twin out there. So everybody's got a twin.
Yeah,
I think if you, I think if you had your hair a little bit longer and it was calm back, I mean, people will probably be like, "Oh, look at Donnie Wahlberg."
Donnie
You know what I
Wahlberg.
mean?
Yeah, and then
I'd be
someone
like,
else told
"Hey,"
me.
I'd be like, "Hey, listen, you like my hamburgers?" You know?
Well, someone told me the other day, they're like, "I think you maybe you look like Mark," and I was like, "Shh, tell your mother I said hi."
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think it's definitely Donnie Wahlberg all day.
Yeah, I get it all the time. They're like, "Yeah, you look like Donnie Wahlberg." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Thanks." I was like, "I'm glad to know that I look like somebody from New Kids on the Block," which I'm not mad at. I'm not mad at. Back in the
No,
'90s,
no,
I was
no,
also a
hell
kid.
no. Hey, you know what? New Kids on the Block was the jam back in the 80s.
No, but they're still hot now. Like they're still
Oh,
on
well,
tour.
I haven't really heard them, but I'm talking about when they first came out. When they first came out, it would have bombed.
Yeah.
I remember I was in probably, no, I had to be seventh, eighth grade, probably back in like 1988, 89, or whatever the hell it was. And I remember coming home one day after school, and me and my brother shared a room. We had bunk beds. I go in there. My mother goes, "I got you guys a couple new pictures." Walk in the room. One was a blue frame. The other one was a yellow frame. New Kids on the Block. All right. That was cool. I was like back then. It was like that was the jam.
Yeah.
Those were the that for like our age. That was like listening to Michael Jackson for the people that are older now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I got you. Yep. Everybody was just hanging tough, man. That's all it was.
Hanging tough. Oh
Y-
yeah.
Yo, actually, so seeing how you were a worker, I want to know, like, what was the worst bump you've taken?
Um, well, I freaking had, well, I don't know, like bump wise. I mean, I took a leg drop from somebody on the outside of the ring, on the outside of the ring, on the
Mhm,
edge, and I ended up getting like a swollen back of my head. It had like the size of a softball from like my head banging off the side of the ring.
mm,
Um, the most scariest was working Abdullah the Butcher back in 1997, taking a chair shot from the back and getting all sliced and diced. You know what I mean? I
mm,
don't even know if you might not probably see the scars. I had a couple scars back here, but it's so long ago. So, but I've had that. I've had bones broken. You know, I've gotten thrown over the top rope in a battle royal where I was upside down midway like this and popped my elbow out of the socket. You
mm.
know what I mean? I've done a couple things. You know, uh, but I was always put up against big guys. Like I worked King Kong Bundy like 15 times. You know what I mean? And handicap matches, main events, opening cards, working Superfly Jimmy Snuka. That right there was probably the highlight of my like career, taking the Superfly splash. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah.
You know, I just remember him saying to me, "Just help me up, brother. Help me up, brother." You know what I mean? Kind of like lifting my body to kind of guide him
Yeah.
from when he was coming down. You know what I mean? It was like, oh brother, thank you, bless you. You know, But I mean, I've had a good career and I've done a lot of good in the business, and I'm just gonna keep on doing it until I don't feel like doing it anymore, and that's not anytime soon. Just going to keep on promoting, doing what we do, helping young talent out, helping them grow. Um, you know, and just do what we got to do and try to put a lot of asses in the seats this year. You know. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle's real. You know what I mean? You try to, even ticket wise, pricing and stuff like that, you always got to be kind of try to be competitive too on the ticket pricing. You don't want to price too high and you don't want to price too low. And over the years, we were always pricing too low, and then we just got into this thing like this year. This first time I'm actually doing it in the history of New World Wrestling Extreme is actually doing reserve seating, because for years and years and years, everybody's, oh, I want front row, I want second row, I want my reserve seat, this and that. You know what I mean? It used to be just first come, first serve.
Yeah.
So now we had to adjust the prices, you know what I mean? Where they're 25 for front row reserve, 20 on second row, and then 15 on GA. So I think it's going to work out better because now people are going to be able to get where they want to get. You know what I mean?
100%.
So so I think it creates a whole different deal. I'm at least hoping so. I mean, everybody else is doing it. I don't see why not. But some areas are tougher to run in. Like I would talk about Central Falls, but I'll talk about Central Falls because this is this. You think it's going to be after the fact, anyways. But hopefully, we'll just say that it went pretty good. You know what I mean? On that March 8th went really well. But that's a tough location that that I run in because of the city, and um, you don't know, like especially even now with the economy. You know what I mean? The economy is like a roller coaster ride right now. It's
Yeah.
up and down, and you don't know where you're gonna be at. And like right now, like it's February. I don't run in those winter months, but now going into the March, April, you don't know if you're going to get some last minute snowstorm and this and that. So hopefully we don't. and we just the weather starts warming up. That's why I think like even like advanced tickets and stuff. A lot of times it starts off slow, especially around this time of year, because people don't want to get crazy with tickets just in case something happens.
Right.
So it gets being a promoter, it gets scary. But I'm also a promoter that comes correct too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you got to know you got to know your boundary, your limits. You know what I mean. You got to set a budget. You got to be at that so you can handle business. You know what I mean. Some people get over their head, and then you hear on the internet, this guy's doing this, guy snipped this one, that, blah blah blah. You know, it's one of those things, man. Something drastically would have to happen. You know what I mean? With me or something for something stupid to happen. And I knock on wood. That's always been good for the last 22 years. So, but I mean, being a promoter, it can be scary too. You know what I mean? And there's always like I always look at it like this, and I used to like look at it this way a few years back. Like, all right, promoter spends X amount of dollars, right? Advertising the talent, this and that, and all that stuff, right? The whole thing is some promoters they go on there and they talk about these guys are not doing their end. They're not, you know what I mean? Not shit. Realistically, I mean, it's the promoter's job to get the work done. You know what I'm saying? But it would be nice if people did, share the event they're on, or at least share the matches that they're working. You know what I'm saying? I know some people do, but you don't have to spend. Some promoters like think that you got to spend like your whole day on this. Some people are not on the internet every day. You know what I'm saying? People are working second shift. They're sleeping during the day. You know what I mean? Me being a promoter, being a truck driver, you know what I mean? When I stop, when I'm stopped somewhere, I'll share material. I'll push it out real quick. Boom, boom, boom. But not everybody's like, you know what I mean? Some people,
Yeah.
everybody's life's different. You know what I mean? Um, but I mean, I do think that if a promoter's pushing, you know what I mean. You should just at least say, you know what, let me put this out there once or twice a week. Let people know where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because if talent did that a little more, then they could say, hey, you know what, I drew people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the shows that actually draws, and that gets back to building a good poster, building a good matchup. You know what I mean? To attract people. You know what I'm saying? See, back in the early days, you know how they used to do it with tickets, right? The talent would actually sell tickets too. They'd have a base pay, okay, and say the promoter turn around and gave you, say, 10 tickets. You know what I mean? Because you want to make extra money. You had your base pay automatically, and you had 10 tickets, and you sold the 10 tickets, and say the tickets were $15 a piece. Well, you could make $5 a piece on each ticket. You know what I'm saying? So you'd make that extra money. You know
Right.
what I mean? When people used to, hawk tickets, you know what I mean? But that's what they do in boxing. Boxing's the same way. That's how these guys all make money in boxing. The promoters that are running the boxing event, they'll give these guys, it's a whole different ball game. Don't get me wrong. And it's probably easier because you're selling the boxing club areas. You know what I mean? Like this guy Kevin Walsh out of Brockton. He's the son of Brockton, man. That kid can sell 100 tickets like this, no problem. Go to Mohegan Sun or Bally's Fitness, Bally's Twin River,
Right.
casino. They're 150 tickets. Dude's selling tickets. He's making a good payday, though. You know what I'm saying? But the tickets are 50, 75, $150. There's a difference.
Right.
You know, but I always look at it, and if work is, turn around and say, hey, boom, 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 I sold 10 tickets. not physically sell them, but you had 10 people come and those people are there for you, right? And there was a way to do it. People could actually make extra money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm all about that. You know what I mean? But being a promoter, you got to draw the line on paydays. You know what I'm saying? Because it's independent wrestling. You never know what you're gonna get. It's like Forrest Gump. You know what I mean? Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
But and at the same time, and being the way I am, and I've done it in the past, if I have a blowout show and I bang it right out, say, it's 400 people. I'm gonna give everybody a couple extra bucks, man. You know what I'm saying? But you always got to have somewhat of a base, and you got to stick to that base. You know what I mean? I see it all the time. You know what I mean? There's promoters that are stiffing people because they got over their head. They brought two. They brought two names in. They got 15, 20 different talents to pay. Their budgets are $3,500, $4,000, and they only brought 1,000 in. You know what I'm saying? There was a promoter out in I don't know what the scenario was, but out in like Ohio or whatever, big time wrestling. It's the classic one. It's not the one that comes around Massachusetts, but this other one.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but supposedly stiffed this guy and that guy, and he did it multiple times. You know what I mean? And like a couple big names, like Rob Van Dam and a few other. I mean, it was all over the internet. I mean, it's not like it's hidden. You
Right.
know, sometimes you just get over your head. You gotta keep yourself leveled. You know what I mean? This business is crazy. You want to keep on building up, and you get to, let's say, 300 to 400 people for 2-3 shows in a row. Now you are making something. Now you can turn around and take a little extra money and put it to something if you want to do a big name thing. But see, what my whole thing is, I rather put the money that the company makes, and I want to take care of my own talent. I rather take care of the independent talent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because those are the guys that you have all the time, and 80% of them, you're treating them right. They're gonna take care of you. You know what I'm saying? So you see how our locker room is. You see how we do things, and I think we run a pretty good ship. You know what I mean? A lot of people, a lot of people, like, I don't know. We're what's the word I'm looking for on this deal here? Like, well, like, put it this way. I don't want people that they shouldn't sleep on us. You know what I'm saying? There's they got to get out and check out our events, man. We've been around a long time. We got great talent. We got great atmosphere. Everything's logoed out, no matter which way you look at it, at our events. Um, because we care about our talent. We care about the look they're coming out through. Through the curtain and the smoke and the lights and this and that. You know what I mean? Because everybody's important to us. Period. You know, so
Yeah.
we want everybody to feel like they're stars. You know what I mean? Because that's the way it should go. You know what I mean? Some promoters out there don't give two shits. You know what I mean? Come in here, do whatever. But then you got to also, promoters like myself that take care of people, and yeah, some talent that try to like shit on you. You know what I mean? But not directly, or not in your face or anything. But one thing I can say though, and I'm not, and it's not directed at me. You know what I mean? I've never had no issue with talents. You know what I mean? I got a reputable name out here in the independent scene, and I keep it that way.
I like that. So listen, I'm gonna take this over to my favorite part of the 3 Count podcast, which is the 3 Count podcast, 10 count questions, and this is how it goes. I'm gonna
All
fire out
right.
10 questions, right? So we're gonna put on imaginary timer for added pressure. Ding. And 10 questions, whatever your answer is, that's your answer. So here we go.
All
Like my
right.
favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
I think I'm liking SmackDown a little more these
What's your
days.
favorite movie?
My favorite movie?
Yep,
Favorite movie. I like the 80s movies, so I go like Kickboxer, stuff like that.
I like
You
that.
know?
Apple or Android?
Uh, I may go Apple, but right now I'm on Android. So I've had Android, so I'm just gonna say Android right now.
Favorite TV show?
Uh Three's Company.
That's a great one. Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Favorite cartoon?
Tom and Jerry.
It's a great one. Marvel or DC?
Um, Probably DC.
Okay. Favorite podcast?
Um, the three count.
That's the greatest podcast of
That,
them all.
that's my new favorite one right there. Uh, no, but honestly, no, you got a good podcast. I don't really I don't know. I don't really have a favorite podcast because I'm kind of still getting new. I've only done a few in my time. You're probably the I'd probably say fourth or fifth one I've done.
I like that. Okay. Well, here's one. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Nominate. Let's see. It would be fun if you got the Juckets.
Okay. I have them on the book.
Seriously, it'd be full gimmick. It'd be a blast.
I I have them in the books. I have them in my mind of like bringing them on. So they are definitely a
But
talent.
who would actually be a good one is Stevie Garcia.
I've had him on the show. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
we've
a
had this
good
before.
one. Um, Heel wise, I don't know. I could think. I don't know. I probably could. I probably could think of a few, but I think the new tag team that I've been seeing, which we got coming in, is the Pathway. Lee Miller
Yeah,
and Matthew Samuels. You know what I mean? That'd be another good one.
be a lot of
I
fun.
could
I
think.
could definitely get Lee Miller on this show. Him and I
I
would
think
be.
I think Brian Bayside would actually be a good one to get on.
I know. I have said, Brian, you should definitely be on it. I'm going to clip this. Brian, you should definitely be on the show. You know how many times I've actually reached out to that? Like, him and I are on the same, we chat every day. And I'm like, yo, you good for tonight? Let's do the podcast. And he's like, yeah. My twin brother's third eye just got poked. So I have to like take a rain check really quick. Yeah,
Oh,
Brian, I said what I said.
is that? Oh, he's like one of them ones. Like he's got more stories than Walt Disney.
So, my last question for you before we wrap this up. What is my favorite question to ask every single person that comes on this show? Favorite curse word?
Uh, get fucked.
Yeah, thank you. But yo, those are all my questions I have for you. So just let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
You can find me on all social media platforms. James Allen, New World Wrestling Extreme, nwwextreme.com. We're even on TikTok and all that good old stuff. Stop in, say hello. Follow us on Eventbrite. Get your tickets for all upcoming New World Wrestling Extreme events. NWWExtreme.com, like I was saying, all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and you can check us out on our YouTube channel too. We're trying to build the YouTube channel up. Uh, and we're trying to work on also of getting on like that Thriller TV or the IWTV or stuff like that. Honestly, every time we put out, somebody knows somebody's blocking us. You know what I mean, from getting on there. But we're gonna figure out a way. There's a will, there's a way. You know what I
Always,
mean?
always a way. All
That,
right.
that's
Well,
right.
He gave you all of his handles. He told you where you could find him. He even gave you the website that he
That's
is
right.
to. So what does that mean? Like every great part of a wrestling match, we gotta take this home. Cause this is the 3 Count Podcast. This is Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog, the man that leads you out that mountain called wrestling. And like every good Sherpa, it's never about me, it's about who's into the ring. So who's into the ring? You see him right there, Mr. James Allen himself. So you guys know what
All
to do.
right.
Tune into the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms. You're even checking us out on YouTube. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Amazon Music. You're even checking us out on Spotify. Also leaving us 5-star frog splash reviews off the Elimination Chamber onto the Apple Podcast. You're even checking us out on that dumb app with the stupid jingle that goes iHeartRadio or whatever it is. Anyway,
Yeah.
you're also buying our merch on foryourwear.com, and you're checking out our merch on prowrestlingtees.com. You're telling your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your best friends, and your enemies, because we love haters too. Or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.
Yeah, get it going on, man. Keep it real, man.
What's up? It is your friendly neighborhood Red Dog, and thank you for checking out this episode of the 3 Count Podcast. Whether that was Chaz friends, Red Dog friends, Damien friends, the Villains Lounge, Now Into the Ring, Now Entering 201, or Now Returning to the Ring, all those good episodes. You should really be liking, commenting, and even sharing this with your friends, family, whoever it may be. But what you all should be doing is checking us out on all of our social media platforms at 3 Count Pod, whether that's on IG, Twitch, you check us out on Threads, whatever it may be. And if you go check us out on X, it is 3count_pod. Check us out on YouTube, as well as Facebook, on Rumble, on Apple Music, on Spotify, all those fun things. Tell your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, and your best friends and your enemies, because we love haters too. Do all that stuff. And then, last but not least, buy our merch on foryourwear.com or prowrestlingtees.com. Kawaii.